Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are jumping right into something that has honestly fascinated and kind of terrified people for centuries. We're talking about the bizarre historical glitches in our world. Are these seemingly impossible coincidences actually proof of supernatural fate, or are they just extreme math playing out in real time? Let's get right into the architecture of impossibility.
Okay, so let's start with this absolutely jaw-dropping case. Picture this. Two identical twins, separated at birth. Both adoptive families independently decide to name their new baby Jim. Now that alone is a pretty fun coincidence, right? But check this out. Jim number 1 grows up, marries a woman named Linda, gets a divorce, and eventually marries a woman named Betty. Meanwhile, Jim number 2, who has been completely separated from his brother, living a totally distinct life, also marries a Linda, divorces her, and marries a Betty. I mean, no way, right? Their lives miraculously mirrored each other's exact romantic milestones. When you hear parallels like that side by side, your brain just instantly screams that this cannot possibly be random chance.
But as you'll see, this pattern of the impossible is documented all throughout history, and it is definitely not just about twins. Take the infamous Richard Parker shipwreck prediction. Get this. Back in 1838, Edgar Allan Poe writes this novel about a shipwrecked crew, and to survive, they end up eating a cabin boy named Richard Parker. Fast forward 46 years later, a real ship sinks, and the surviving crew actually resorts to eating their cabin boy, whose real name was literally Richard Parker. I mean, wow. When you encounter a story like that, it makes you instantly question the very nature of our reality. Seriously, how on earth can the universe generate a massive spoiler alert for a random maritime disaster nearly half a century before it even happens?
And honestly, the bizarre patterns just continue to completely defy logic. Imagine a family where someone in the first generation is struck by lightning. Tragic, but it happens. But then, decades later, someone from the second generation is struck in that exact same spot. And then, fast forward another 30 years, and the third generation gets struck right there again. You know that old saying that lightning never strikes the same place twice? Well, apparently it does. It strikes the same place, hitting the exact same bloodline across an entire century. It's wild.
So, what exactly are we looking at here? Are the Jim twins, the Edgar Allan Poe shipwreck prediction, and those wild generational lightning strikes actual proof of destiny? Like, is destiny stepping in to direct the play? Or is there a completely scientific explanation for these glitches just hiding in plain sight? Now, I know it's incredibly tempting to assume there's some grand author behind these patterns. But to truly understand what's going on, we've got to leave mythology behind for a second and step into the realm of science.
To really solve this mystery, we've got to first investigate biological determinism. Basically, this is the concept that our behavior, our choices, and our destiny are primarily hard-coded by our genetics rather than our environment. When we look at twins separated at birth who end up living these incredibly parallel lives, we really have to ask, are our identical genes actually writing our life story right from the start? Is your DNA basically a pre-written script that you're just unknowingly acting out every single day? And this investigation, it actually extends to the absolute smallest details of our lives. You see, biological determinism doesn't just ask if genetics determine the broad strokes, like our height or eye color. It asks if our DNA hard codes even our most random, hyper-specific, everyday choices. Think about it. Two separated twins independently deciding to name their childhood dog Toy, or randomly choosing the exact same brand of beer to drink on a Friday night. When you realize that these seemingly spontaneous, off-the-cuff choices might actually be deeply embedded genetic imperatives, well, the line between free will and biological destiny gets really, really blurry.
But wait, biology might only be half the explanation here. What if the universe isn't magical at all, but purely mathematical? We can actually reframe these eerie coincidences, not as spooky fate or even genetic programming, but as the edges of statistical probability being tested by human behavior. Think of the universe like this massive, incredibly complex casino, and what we perceive as miraculous events or generational curses are actually just the inevitable results of the math running long enough.
So most of our lives exist right in the middle, the realm of normal, everyday probability. It's the mundane, predictable stuff. But out there, there's a tiny, very real margin of mathematical inevitability living at the extreme edge. When you're dealing with the massive data sets of billions of human lives and literally billions of actions happening every single second, those bizarre glitches, they're actually mathematically inevitable outliers. Because there are so many people out there making so many choices constantly, that extreme edge doesn't just have a chance of happening, it's absolutely required to happen eventually.
Which brings us to what's probably the most important number in this entire explainer, just the number 1. When human behavior tests probability on a massive global scale, you are guaranteed to eventually hit that 1 in a billion impossible event. It's not magic, and it's certainly not a glitch in the matrix. Look, if you flip a coin enough times, eventually it's going to land right on its edge. When billions of people live out decades and decades of life, eventually 2 separated twins named Jim are going to marry 2 Lindas and 2 Bettys. The math literally demands it.
So as you walk away from this explainer today, I want you to take a second and really look at your own life. Think about those random chance meetings, the lucky breaks, maybe the seemingly impossible coincidences that led you to your partner, your career, or even just exactly where you are sitting right now. You really have to wonder, don't you? Are your smallest choices actually destiny, hard-coded right into your DNA? Or is the invisible, beautiful architecture of sheer probability quietly guiding your every step? Thanks so much for learning with me today, and hey, keep questioning the impossible.